First, let me point out that this software comes pre-populated with this Calibre quick start guide. So if you want to refresh your mind or take a look at an actual copy or text of what I'm talking about here, most of what I talk about and cover is in this actual quick start guide. So feel free to look through that. You'll also notice that I have a pre-populated book in here on my screen. But we're going to go through how to add books from your hard drive to this software. The way we do that is we start up here with the add books. Don't be confused, it doesn't have to be an EPUB book already, but this is the perfect place for educators to have students already create books in Microsoft Word or create PDF versions of them, or it's even a great place for educators to come in here and create field trip books or what have you. And when we say books, we're talking again, like I said, about Word documents or PowerPoints or something else, not an EPUB version yet. That's what we're going to do with this software. So in order to do this, we have to add material. It's sort of misleading to call them books at this point. It's really just adding a document or adding a material. You're going to see there's some limitations here though in just a second. I'm going to hit Add Books. And down here it says file types. These are the basic file types that this program will accept, and you're going to notice there's a pretty wide variety of them. We have RAR files, zip files, RTF, which is rich text format. That's going to be extremely helpful for many of us. And they will even accept EPUB files, which seems counterintuitive because we're making EPUB file, but realistically if you want to take multiple EPUB files, smash them together and make one single unified document, you could do that with this program. But there's a few other types of documents that you can pull into here and create EPUBs out of as well, but there are limitations, and I'm going to show you that here in just a second. For instance, look on my screen and you'll see that I have checkout shopping. This one right here is a PDF and it's highlighted, which means that I can select it. This over here, the .docx, which is a Word document, is grayed out, which means I can't even click on it to upload it. Well, that's because Word documents themselves are not convertible by this software Calibre, unfortunately. Maybe in the future, but at this time they are not. Sometimes there's a little bit of a misleading piece right here. I see DPH changes as a .doc. Even though I can select that, it may not do a good job with it, or it may not convert it at all. So just be aware of that. One of the best ways to bring things into Calibre is have them in either PDF or RTF, which is that rich text format file type. And I'll show you how to change your documents, your Word documents, to PDFs or RTFs here in just a second, but just understand that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and select a PDF that I want to ingest here. And here we go. I found the document that I want to try and use. Setting up a teacher's assistant. That's the name of this document. There's 3 versions of it. I have a PDF, I have a RTF, and I even have the docx up here, which is a Word document. Before I even import them though, let me just quickly show you what they look like from the Word perspective. So here's the document. This is in Microsoft Word, and you can see that I've added images and shapes, and I have plenty of text in here as well. And when I come back to this, that's what I'm going to be importing. I'm going to first click on the RTF version, and I'm going to hit open, and it should take a few seconds here. It's going to upload that from my hard drive into the program, and now I have it sitting right here as number 1. I'm going to go back into add a book, and this time I'm going to pick the PDF version. Here we go, there's my PDF version. Select that, take a few more seconds, and it should slam it in here, and I'll have 2 copies of the same exact thing, just different file formats. They're both called the same exact thing, and I know which one I'm on by highlighting the individual topics here, and you'll notice over on the right hand side over there that it changes the image icon, and it also changes the information. You can see my format here is RTF, and it was created by me. Click this to open it if you want to just open it on your drive to check out what it is. And then I come up here and it says PDF version. Same information. It even gives me a little snapshot of it here. As you can tell or suspect, it's going to do a better job with the PDF than it's going to do with the RTF. Let's go ahead and take it to the next step. We've added our content into the queue here in the middle. Now we have to convert these books to EPUBs. In order to do that, you just use this pretty simple button up here that says Convert Books. Let me just show you though, there's a drop down. It says Convert Individually, or you can bulk convert all 4 of my documents at the same exact time. At this point, I don't want to convert all 4 of my documents, so I'm going to pick the Convert Individually. So I'm going to convert, and it's going to say, alright, the first one in your queue is the PDF document here, and I can add in a little bit more information about who the publisher was. I can add in tags saying teacher's assistant in here if I want to. I can even say this is part of a series if I am creating an ebook series. The nice part about this is it's really intuitive. Over on the left hand side it has some of the basic information for me to use and work with. The look and feel is simply the font size, the line height, input characters, and yes, somebody just looked in my window, that's why I looked over there, but we'll keep going. And if I want to change any of this, I can even add in extra cascading style sheet information, CSS, but that's over most of our heads, so we'll just leave that alone. And we'll pop down here to heuristics or processing. Heuristics is really that ability for something to turn or line wrap or mess around with the orientation and the background of the actual EPUB when it's all done. Page setup is the next piece here, and we can decide what it is that we're trying to create this EPUB for. If we're doing it for a Sony reader, or if we're moving up here, if we want to create it for the iPad, we'll just pick this. It gives me my resolution type and tells me what size it's going to kick this out as. An iPad sounds fine with me. I'm going to go with default inputs, but you can get crazy over here with all the different input styles and your margins. You can change all of those things. In fact, at this point, you could come up here to the upper right hand corner and you could change it so that you wouldn't be creating just a regular old EPUB, but there's all of these different e-publication file formats, including a PDF. You could make a PDF out of a PDF, or this could be your PDF creator. In fact, if you can't create PDFs on your computer at all, you just cannot figure it out, you can take and create take RTFs and change them to PDFs in this program if you wanted to. But I digress. I'm going to move on. Structure and detection. This just has to do with some things that you would probably never deal with on a generic level, but it gives a lot of capabilities to people who want to mess around with chapter settings, if you're making a table of contents, all of those things. And the table of contents down here will automatically populate. Otherwise, you can come in here and create filters that will detect and use what you have predefined as your table of contents. Then we go down here to the search and replace section, and we can look for certain parts within the document and replace them here on the fly. And then finally I have the PDF input here, and this is lineup wrapping factors. This has to do with the way it looks and feels, and realistically you're not going to mess around with this in almost every case. But then the EPUB output just asks if you want a cover on your EPUB document. It asks if you want to flatten everything down to, in other words, take all your layers and everything, if you have layers, and distill them down, burn them down to a flattened image, which will make things load faster on, let's say, the iPad that we're making this for, but it will also take away some of that dynamics where text can grow and shrink and you can change font styles. In fact, you can also pick that you want no SVG cover or you want no cover at all. Up here, or sorry, rather down at the very bottom, you can debug. This is if you want to check your HTML coding, if you're taking or ingesting HTML or XML files in here, and you can try and debug to make sure that it's not going to kick out a crazy EPUB format that no one else can read. The last part is this metadata, which we started with, but it has the cover image here. Right now, by default, it's going to grab the first image in the document, or first page in the document, as your cover image. But if you have a special cover, EPUB format says in its manifest that you can have a special cover for it, so when it's sitting inside of a bookshelf, like on your iPad, it might display differently than the first page of the actual document. So I could go in here and browse by clicking this button and find an actual cute JPEG image or something like that that I want to be the cover of this document. But in this case, I'm not really going to mess around with this, and I'm going to just hit OK. Hit OK at the bottom, and it may take a little bit for it to actually convert. And you can see my little golden wheel spinning there, my rainbow wheel spinning. It has started the conversion, it says. It's in the process. And I can scroll down here a little bit. That didn't take terribly long, and now I can see that it's actually converted because on this document it says 0 jobs now. This is no longer spinning, and I can see it's both in PDF and I have it in the EPUB format. So if I click on this EPUB, I could download that EPUB document. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on that EPUB. And what this did on my computer is it loaded my ebook viewer. And I can see this is my ebook viewer. It's basically my e-reader. You could use or open this in any reader. It could be the Adobe Digital EPUB reader. It could be anything that you open it on, that as long as it can read the EPUB file format. And actually, I accidentally opened this twice. I'm going to close this one. And you can see I can scroll through my document. You can also see that it did a terrible job with some of the elements that I put in here. It has giant black pieces in here, and it's taken some of my steps and just thrown them into a wildly chaotic set of unorganized pieces here. The nice part here is that most of it looks good. I can see the top up here looks pretty nice, but then what it did is it took each one of these pieces and it tried to break them down. You can see into this piece, and then it threw the substructuring in here underneath, and then I have no idea what these black pieces are. But my point here is the more images and things that you throw into this EPUB PDF document, the more chaos you might see on the other end of your EPUB version. The nice part is you can then go back in and you can tweak things. You can even change your EPUB output to be that flattened version so that it doesn't screw with that and try to be smarter than you. It will just take exactly what the images are and it will flatten or burn it down to one thing, and you'll get a much friendlier looking EPUB version. If you're just using text, it almost always does a great job with solely text and no images. I'm not saying you should give up if you have images. I'm just saying be aware that if you use images, you may come up with a few problems, or your e-reader may not like what this EPUB creation has made with it. Bottom line here is you're going to have to play around at least a little bit in order to tweak things and make them look the way that you want. Let's move on to, we're going to take an RTF this time, and we're going to just take a look at the RTF version in part 2.